Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video I'm going to show you how to do a complete, clean, fresh install of Windows 11. Now, this is relevant for the version 24H2 and onward. There's a few slight changes in the installation method, and also there will be some top tips to allow you to install Windows a lot easier, such as getting the drivers for your LAN or your Wi-Fi in advance, especially if you're rocking one of those nice, new, shiny, exciting AMD or Intel platforms, in which case there won't be drivers built into the Windows installation, which is a real shame. Or potentially you might want to take advantage of certain other little tips and tricks to help you get through the process. Now, there will be some timestamps in the video description, so if there's something in particular that you're interested in, you can fast forward to that. But I would suggest if this is possibly your first time of doing it, then I would watch the whole video through just so you get a kind of good feel for how it all works. Alternatively, if you get any problems, feel free to reach out in that comment section below, or alternatively, we do have a Discord chat server, which you're more than welcome to join and ask any questions which may arise at the time of you actually trying to do your installation. So what are you going to need for your Windows 11 installation? Now, obviously, you're going to need a working computer, the one you've either just built or have just been given. You will need another computer as well, which has access to the internet, so you can download the Windows installation files and also potentially the drivers for your motherboard in your new computer. You'll also need a USB flash drive, ideally around about 8 gigabytes is fine. Larger is better if you've got one, 16 gigs, 32 gigs or whatever. I've actually got a 128 gig one here, which is going to be absolutely fine. So with all that said, let's head over to the computer and we'll get started. Okay, so we're on our working Windows computer at the moment, so we're going to want to get our Windows 11 installation files. Now, we've done various other videos on this, on ways of getting it to bypass certain features, but I'm just going to go down the normal route, so this is a kind of a generic installation. So in your browser of choice, type in Windows 11 Media Creation Tool, and you should find it comes up with a link like this, Microsoft.com, and the software download. Click on this one and go to the page. So you can choose to use things like the installation assistant, but what we want to do is this one here. So create a Windows 11 installation media. So this is for making a bootable USB or a DVD. Click on download now, and we'll save this file to our Windows desktop. This is going to be the media creation tool.exe. Don't save that to a USB drive because please don't. Just save it to your desktop or your computer hard drive somewhere. When that's done, minimize this window, and now we can start the installation process. So find your media creation tool exe, give it a double click, and this will start the installation. So you'll get your user account control coming up. So in order to start, just click yes, and it will start the wizard. So it's going to say here, getting a few things ready. Just be patient, let it do its thing. Obviously read the terms and conditions. If you want to, that is entirely up to you. Essentially, if you want to continue, you have to accept them regardless. So regardless of what they say, you're going to have to click OK. Again, it's going to get a few things ready in the background, and it's going to ask you now for the language and the edition. So generally this is going to come up with the right ones for your region, but if not, you can get rid of that tick box there and you can make choices there for different languages, etc. should you need to. When you're happy, click on next, and it's going to ask you now which media to use. So it says either a USB flash drive or an ISO file, which you can then later on burn to a DVD or an ISO later. We're going to do the USB flash drive, so I better go ahead and plug in my drive now. There we go, we've got a new drive. Now the drive will be wiped in its entirety, so make sure it's a drive that you don't have any data on that you wish to keep. So there's our new drive, and we'll click on next, and it will say select a USB flash drive. So it will give you a list of drives. If it doesn't, or you haven't plugged in your drive yet, plug it in and then click on refresh drive list, and you should see the drives which are available. So we're going to choose D, new volume, which is our USB drive we've just installed, and click next. So again, it's going to be getting a few things ready. This part of the process is a little bit long-winded, so it's going to download the Windows files, process them, and then put them back onto your USB drive. So at this point now, you can pretty much just let it do its thing, and we'll come back when there's something to interact with. So now it's downloaded and verified the data. It's now going to go ahead and create the Windows 11 media. So this is now effectively kind of burning the image to your USB drive. Again, just be patient, let it do its thing. You may notice on your PC the processor or the fans ramp up as it's trying to compress and do the archiving of the data on the fly. Again, just be patient, let it do its thing. Okay, so that has now finished. It says your USB flash drive is ready. So for most of you, if you want to, at this point, you can click on finish and take your USB drive out. This is entirely up to you. I would suggest clicking on finish, and it'll also get rid of the files it's downloaded. So our drive is now ready. So if we go into the drive, you'll see there is our installation disk there. But what I would suggest to do at this point is, especially if you're on a newer platform, one of the AM5 platforms, Intel LJ 1700, the 1851, I would suggest getting the drivers, at least for your WAN and your LAN, for your motherboard. So in order to do that, we're going to open up a browser. And for us, the motherboard is the MSI Z890 Edge TI Wi-Fi, this one here. So head over to the support tab for your particular motherboard. Obviously don't just copy mine unless you're using the same motherboard, but go to the support tab and go into the driver section. And you probably find that Win11 is already chosen for you on your specific site. And we'll go for the LAN drivers. And we'll download those. We'll download that to the desktop for now. All right, for some reason on this particular setup, it's not got a specific one for the Wi-Fi, so I think the Killer Network Universal Drivers, it basically covers the Wi-Fi and also the LAN. But just make sure you've got your drivers there. That's going to be really useful going forward. So when you're happy you've got that and it's downloaded, you can close this window and you'll see more than likely you'll have a zipped file. So we're going to unzip that. So we'll choose Extract All and let the driver extract. So then you've got your network folder. Drivers are going to be in there, Windows 10, etc, etc. So yeah, that looks like it's going to cover pretty much everything. So what you're going to want to do is to basically get that folder which you've just unzipped, do right click and choose copy, then head over to your USB drive where we've just got Windows on, and we're just going to put it in the root there. So, or you can choose a folder and call it drivers, whatever you want to, but I'm going to just paste it into the root directory there. So now we've transferred our network drivers over to the USB just in case we need them. We might not need them, but just in case they've not been added to the Windows ISO, at least that way we can still get online and register our copy of Windows and all that usual stuff. So that is pretty much it. So our Windows drive is now set up. So now we can eject that drive and now we can head over to our new computer and start installing Windows. Okay, so we're back to our new PC now. So potentially you may see this, maybe you won't. On some motherboards you have to choose a boot device. Otherwise, if you've got a blank drive in there, there's a strong chance it'll just try and boot straight away into the Windows installer. But if for some reason it doesn't, or you've got a drive which has got an old operating system and you're kind of upgrading your system, whatever, you can use F11 or whatever your motherboard uses to get into the boot manager. So this is the boot manager. So we've got the option here for Windows boot. So that would be booting into the Windows which is installed already, if we have that. Alternatively, we can choose this one, which is our UEFI Lexar USB flash drive. So when you're ready, press enter. And now it's going to start trying to boot from the USB drive. So this can now enter into Windows setup. So just choose your appropriate language and also your time and currency format. When you're happy, click on next. And again, you've got the input method, again, United Kingdom. And you get some options here with the new Windows setup. So you've got the option to install Windows 11, or you can try to repair your PC. So if you want to install Windows 11, which is the default radio button, you do have to click on this section here saying, I agree, everything will be deleted, including files, apps, and settings. So I'm going to click on tick because this is going to be a fresh installation, and choose next. At this point, you can choose to insert a product key, should you have one. If you don't, you can go down to the bottom here and choose I don't have a product key. Now we can choose which version of Windows we will actually want to install. So the options are obviously home, single language, etc., education. For most people, I think Windows 11 Pro will probably be the most sensible solution. If you're at a point where you don't have a Windows license and you're not sure which one you want to use, I would go with Pro, because the Pro licenses generally end up being cheaper than the home and other ones anyway, and you can get them for about £3 or $3 from Premium CD Keys / Mike's Unboxing. I'll put links for that in the video description if you want a cheap license key. Anyway, we're going to choose Windows 11 Pro, so we'll click on next, and you have to go through and basically accept the licensing agreement. So we'll click on accept, and now it's going to search for disks within your computer. So this is where it's actually changed a little bit more. So previously it would just show your hard disk drives, whereas now it's actually going to show other drives as well. So generally disk 0 is going to be your primary disk in the top NVMe slot. If you've got other disks there, like disk 1, that for us here is our USB drive. So again, that is one we don't want to install Windows onto. So we actually want to install it onto disk 0. Now, as you can see, this has already been used for a Windows installation. So yours may just have one entry. If it only has one, that's absolutely fine. But if you have more than one, you'll need to delete all of these partitions. So just choose one and then choose delete partition. Obviously, if there's any data on these, you will actually lose it. And just go through and delete all of the partitions on disk 0 until you end up with just unallocated space. And there we go. So now we've finally come to our disk 0 unallocated space. So this is most likely what a lot of you will be seeing if you're installing Windows onto a completely new and fresh hard disk drive or NVMe drive, SSD, etc. So this is the one you want to choose. I would suggest if you have more than one drive connected, it's probably a good idea to disconnect other drives at the point of Windows installation, just to prevent any kind of weird issues happening with your Windows installation. You can always plug them in after, that isn't a problem. So just wanted to make you aware of that. So anyway, we found our drive, we're happy days here. If for some reason you're using a RAID controller and nothing is showing up here, you may need to choose load driver and load the appropriate RAID driver for your particular motherboard. Not many people tend to use RAID these days, so I'm not going to cover that in any depth. Again, if you get any problems, head over to the Discord. So anyway, this is the drive we want to install on, so we'll click on next. And now it's going to say what it's going to do. So it says it's ready to install. You won't be able to use your PC during installation, obviously. Save and close your files. This is if you're doing an upgrade version. Just to recap, you've chosen to install Windows 11 Professional and keep nothing. Obviously, if this isn't what you want to do, at this point you can just choose the back button, but we're pretty happy, so we're going to click on install. So now this is going to go through and do the pretty normal Windows installation routine. So it'll say there your PC will restart several times, and this may take a while. And obviously, depending on the speed of your computer, the USB drive, your NVMe drives, yours could be done very quickly, or it could take a little while. So just be patient, let it do its thing, and when there's something to interact with, we'll come back. Okay, so now we've got something we can interact with. So it's going to ask you if it's the right country or region. Even though we've already selected it, it will ask you again. So click on yes, and then asks about the input method. We'll click yes again. And you want to add a second keyboard layout. So if you multilingual, you can add another layout. We're not going to, so I'll choose skip. I struggle enough with English. Now, it says here, let's connect you to a network. So this is the port where most people kind of get a little bit stuck. So because it can't detect any network, it won't let you go any further. Now, potentially there is a way around this, which I'm not sure if it's going to work, so I'm going to try it now. So if you do Shift and F10, it brings up the command prompt. So at this point, it looks like this still works. You may find on your system that you may need to press the function key, Shift and F10, because sometimes the F10 key is toggled to something else, but depending which it is, so function, Shift and F10, or just Shift and F10. And when you've got this prompt here, you can type in OOBE. Actually, click on the window. I forgot about that. You have to click on the window. It doesn't automatically do it. So type OOBE, then the backslash, and then bypass NRO. So after you press enter on this, what it will do is the PC will reboot itself, and it will bypass the network setup. So if you want to, and you're struggling, you can't get your network to connect, and you don't want to use a Microsoft account and all that kind of stuff, then you can use this to bypass this particular section. So I just wanted to add this in. I'm not going to do this because I've done it previously in other videos. This is just a workaround should you get stuck. So I'm going to close that, and going back to what we did a little bit earlier. So because we can't get connected to the internet, but we do want to use a Microsoft account, or we do want to set up things properly. So we're going to choose here, install driver. And then this goes back to what we did a little bit earlier. So on our Windows installation drive, which is listed here as drive letter D, if we go into this drive, we just highlight our folder, which has got our installation, we should find that that will work. So we'll choose select folder. So now it's searching for and installing new drivers. So with any luck, it's now going to find the installation files inside that folder. And there we go. Boom. Hidden network is showing. We've got our LAN. Everything seems to be connected. And there we go. So we've got our network connection, and also we've got our Wi-Fi connection. So depending on which we want to do, we can choose whichever we want to do. I'm going to choose the network. So we'll choose next. Obviously, if you want to do your Wi-Fi, click on Wi-Fi and it'll ask you for your Wi-Fi password, login details, all that kind of usual stuff. But that is how to kind of get around that sticky little problem. Otherwise, if you haven't got the network drivers actually on the USB stick, you're going to have to take the disk out, go to another working PC, get your motherboard drivers, put them on there, etc, etc. So you can choose to do that, or you can choose to do the bypass NRO. The choice is entirely up to you. It doesn't make a great deal of difference either way. But I just wanted to show this because this is the kind of the way that Microsoft are now wanting you to install your Windows operating system. So we're going to do a couple more restarts and we'll come back when there's something to interact with. Okay, so at this point now you get the usual stuff, so you can name your device. I'm just going to call this Intel because it's an Intel setup. You can choose skip for now, you can do it a little bit later. Click on next, again it'll probably end up rebooting or just getting on to the next part. So again, just be patient, let it do its thing. Okay, so at this point now, we've got the options of how we want to set up this device. So you can choose for personal use. So if you want to use a Microsoft account at this point, click on set up for personal use. Alternatively, if you don't want to use a Microsoft account, you can choose this option here. So set up for work or school and choose next. And then it'll say about sign-in options. And we can choose this one here, join a domain instead. We're not going to join a domain, but we're going to tell Windows we are, just so that it doesn't nag us into installing a Microsoft account. So you can choose a username, so whatever you want to do. I'm just going to call it user, and we'll click on next. And you can enter a password should you wish to. So I'm just going to click on next. So now it's the usual stuff. So Microsoft is going to ask you all these questions. You can choose whichever you want to. It's entirely up to you. Go through these. I generally do no for pretty much everything, but if there's something on there specifically that you do want to have, then obviously choose whatever is appropriate to you. So now it's going to go ahead and check for any Windows updates. Again, if you do the bypass NRO or you don't have network connectivity, when you do your first installation, it's not going to get the latest updates. So if there's any important security fixes or performance improvements within Windows, which may be necessary, you're not going to get them. So this is kind of like a long-winded process now. So the update is going to be going on at this point there, because they know this is going to take so long to do the updates. There's actually games I think you can play on here. So yeah, you can check through these things here. There is a game called Surf the Waves. So if you're bored and you want to play Surf the Waves whilst you're waiting, you certainly can do. That is up to you, and it tells you about some of the cool new features in the new version of Windows. So you can now create folders in your start menu, whereas previously it was just the individual applications. So that might be something of use. You can open games, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you get the idea. So it's basically working in the progress in the background there. So step 1 of 3 is currently downloading the latest update. So even though we've just downloaded the latest installation file from Microsoft, from their ISO, they do cram in a little bit more in terms of security and also those 0-day patches. So again, we're going to let it go ahead, do its thing, and we'll let it do some reboots, and we'll come back when there's something else to interact with. Okay, and as if by magic, Windows has installed. A little bit of a longer process this time around, unfortunately, but it does seem to be installed and working. So at this point now, it's probably really tempting for you to go ahead and start using your PC, installing Steam and doing all your games, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, just getting online, checking out your social medias, all that kind of stuff. But I would strongly suggest that you don't do that quite yet. Really, you're going to want to go ahead and install all the drivers that are appropriate for your motherboard, your chipset, your processor, your graphics card, and any other devices such as printers or anything else you're plugged in, headsets, etc., etc. Most motherboard manufacturers have some form of auto installer, the MSI one, MSI Center, etc. But yeah, I would strongly suggest you do that. I'm kind of waiting for it to pop up on the side here. I think it's just a matter of time, but maybe it's not going to. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But anyway, that's basically Windows installed. If you go over now, right click and choose Device Manager. And Device Manager will probably look pretty awful. It will look kind of something like this, because essentially the system still doesn't really know what is actually installed in it. So don't be expecting stellar performance or for everything to run as it should do, because you'd need to install all of these drivers to get things working properly. So at the moment, like, we've only installed our network adapter, which was the gigabit Ethernet, 5 gigabit Ethernet adapter and the Wi-Fi 7, but we still got all these things to install. So yeah, that is really important. No matter how tempting it is to carry on using your PC, get your drivers installed, do all that first, and also you can check to see if there's any additional Windows updates. Sometimes Windows Update will actually install a lot of those drivers for you as well. So anyway, there you go, that is Windows installed, and yeah, happy days. So there we go, that is Windows 11 installed on our shiny new PC. Like I said, I cannot stress enough, please do go ahead now and install things like your Intel chipset drivers or your AMD chipset drivers, your graphics card drivers, all that kind of stuff. Do the Windows updates. Just make sure everything's installed. Don't just head straight into it and start installing games and going online, all that kind of stuff. It's probably not a great idea. If you've got any comments or questions on this video, please feel free to reach out in the comment section below. If you want a quicker response, I would strongly suggest heading over to our Discord, which is completely free of charge to join. You can head over there and ask a question in the technical support section. You're very welcome to do so. But I think that's going to pretty much wrap this one up. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, smash the like button. If you want to see more content like this on a daily basis, maybe consider hitting subscribe and the chime notification. That way you'll be notified of future video releases. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.